Hello, everyone, and welcome to Quest, a journey into true crime and the paranormal. My name is Misti Gaither, and I'm your host. Just so excited to have with me Sam Baltrusis, clairvoyant. And guess what? Not only is Sam a good friend, he was also one of my first guests on the podcast when we started last year. How you been doing, Sam?
I've been doing great. First of all, thank you so much for having me back on your show, and just love getting to know you and talking about one of my favorite topics, Lizzie Borden, and then we actually met up in my hometown of Pensacola, Florida. So it's been great. It's been good. A lot of good stuff.
I don't want to disappoint people, but we're not actually going to be talking about axe murders very hardly tonight. We're going to be broaching a new subject. Well, for y'all, it's not new for Sam, but we're going to be talking about. Sam has a new book, right? That's coming out.
Yeah, I have my little
You make the
headless
announcement.
horseman.
Yeah, the Headless Horseman. And for
My
those
new
of
book
yeah,
it's called Ghosts of Sleepy Hollow: Haunts of the Headless Horseman is coming out September 23rd, and I'll tell you, it was amazing to work on this project and fly. I mean, I live in Boston, so I was going to New York and going to Sleepy Hollow pretty much every weekend during the winter, and having an excuse to kind of like travel to one of my favorite towns to do research was amazing. And I will say that the book, there was a lot of myths and misconceptions associated with Sleepy Hollow, just like there's a lot of myths and misconceptions associated with Salem, Massachusetts. So I really spent a lot of time on, digging deep for the ghost lore, but also like what's causing it, like what is the headless horseman real, and and what, like, are the spirits in Sleepy Hollow actually spirits, are they thought forms, that sort of thing.
now I just have to make a confession to you. Now I did, of course, I do my research and everything, as y'all know, but I did do a little extra, and I watched. You're gonna laugh, but I did watch before meeting. Doing the show tonight, Headless Horseman or whatever, the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, the old one, the cartoon.
Oh my
It
gosh,
just
I
showed
love.
up. That one. It was wonderful. I remember when I was younger watching it and
Yeah.
being so scared about the headless horseman and all that, and Ichabod Crane, and how he was never. It showed up on my YouTube, and I'm like, oh, what the hell? And so I'm like, I watched it, and it brought back some memories, and it was just really, cool. I'm sure a lot of people saw that, and I didn't realize, was it Bing Crosby that voiced?
Yeah, I believe so, but
Yeah,
yeah, I grew up on that too, and
yeah.
for me, like, my interpretation of the Headless Horseman was based on that Disney cartoon. So, for example, the way, even in my little statue that I have here, he has a little jack o' lantern, and I always thought that the Headless Horseman carried a jack o' lantern. But if you read the original story by Washington Irving,
Hmm.
there was no jack o' lantern. It wasn't even during Halloween, and now he's sort of like the poster boy of Halloween. And it's funny that the things have been tweaked from that cartoon, and it left a sort of an indelible mark on pop culture.
And you think about the Disney version of Sleepy Hollow, but then also the Johnny Depp version. Him and Christina Ricci, and I mean that was a total take from what we were used to. With the cartoon or Washington Irving's book, and then all of a sudden, then you had Tim Burton. Was it Tim Burton's? But I know Johnny Depp was in it. The Sleepy
Yeah.
Hollow, and I enjoyed the movie. How about you?
I really did. I mean, anything related to the Headless Horseman, Legend of Sleepy Hollow, I've loved. And even when I was a kid, like after watching the Disney cartoon pretty much every Halloween, I read the story like over and over again, and I fell in love with that short story. What's interesting about it though is like a lot of like the Johnny Depp Tim Burton movie really went into the whole backstory of the Headless Horseman. Like, who was he? He was a Hessian,
Hmm.
which is a German mercenary, and almost kind of gave him a backstory. And it's interesting. Like, part of me feels like that backstory didn't necessarily work, I guess, for the movie, because you want him to kind of be like a faceless monster lurking in the background.
Hmm.
And but yeah, but the movie, just the aesthetic of it, just the huge fan of Johnny Depp and Christina Ricci, and I loved it, and I loved anything to do with the Headless Horse, and even the series that was airing for a while on streaming media. So yeah, I've just been a longtime fan of the Headless Horseman.
So you think about the town of Sleepy Hollow, and some people may not realize it, but it actually, I think of it, and it might be just me, but like maybe like a hamlet of a town. It's like less than 10,000 people there, and just everything, and you have the cemetery, which we'll get into in just a moment. But I mean, it's an actual town, and they have the Washington Irving, and so many things, and that plays onto the story, and I'm sure it's a tourist, but I've just always wanted to go there for years. I'd seen it, the actual, like a podcaster had went there, and she had went around to the cemetery and different things, and I was like, this is on my bucket list for sure. And I got to start scratching stuff off of my bucket list, or I'm going to have like a whole volume or something. But so tell me about the very first time that you went there, and just like how, and the feeling, like we go places and you have that reckoning that like this is where I'm supposed to be, or that you relate to. Tell me, was that one of your first experience when you went there, or was it totally different?
Yeah, no, so I like kind of similar to Salem. I went to college in Boston, so I would go to Salem for Halloween. I lived in New York City for about 10 years, so I would go to Sleepy Hollow during Halloween, and this is like in the
Wow.
90s, early 2000s, and I would go to Sleepy Hollow, and it was literally like there was like, compared to how it is now, it was not anything like how it wasn't really a Halloween destination. All you really had was the Old Dutch Church and the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. But still, like that was thrilling. And I remember going, and I remember thinking to myself how it felt like authentic Halloween. I really felt like I was kind of going back to the Halloweens of my childhood. And I came back about 4 years ago, and I did an event in Sleepy Hollow. It was called the Sleepy Hollow Paracon, and when I went back, things changed. It's almost like it's taken on. The whole town was branded Headless Horseman,
Mm-hmm.
and just seeing the changes, and also like it reminded me a lot of Salem, sort of the transformation of Salem. When I first started going to Salem, it was definitely a very different vibe in Salem. And Sleepy Hollow, same thing. It's kind of changed to become more tourist friendly.
You think about towns, and they have to make a living, and that's what's, I guess, drawing people so that they're capitalizing it. Now, you mentioned the cemetery. Now, there's an actual story about the bronze lady that's there in that cemetery, and my, you got to really do the respect thing about her. So do you mind telling our listeners and viewers about the bronze lady?
Yeah, so the Bronze Lady, she's kind of buried deep in the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. And so when I was doing my research, I pretty much visited every alleged ghost story that has been told over the years. And the Bronze Lady is sort of like more of a contemporary ghost story. It's a statue that was built in early 20th century. The whole story is if you disrespect her statue, then something bad will happen to you. And there was even an article in the New York Times. It said like the other ghost of Sleepy Hollow, and and I remember reading the article and going, yeah, yeah, okay. So my friend April Bousset and I decided to go to Sleepy Hollow Cemetery to take photos with the bronze lady. And so there's a statue, kind of like a weeping woman statue,
Mm-hmm.
looking over a mausoleum, so kind of a crypt. And we went right to it. So we were driving to the cemetery. And driving with my friend April is an adventure. We were just like literally just driving through Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. And she's like, "It's over there, it's over there." And so we found it immediately. So we go up. April was picking up like vibes from it, and we were taking pictures. And the whole thing is, if you don't ask permission to take pictures, then something bad could happen. And I'm like, yeah, and I'm like, hey, can we take a picture? We weren't disrespectful, but we weren't necessarily asking her permission for everything that we did.
Mm.
So fast forward 2 weeks after that, uh, I had a fire that basically destroyed my entire apartment. So this apartment I'm at currently is in the same building, but everything that I own, all my research, all my books were destroyed in a fire. And the fire happened above mine. So it was water damage from the fire. So it wasn't really a fire per se, but the water damage destroyed everything, all my research, years and years of
Oh
research
my God.
for my books.
Right.
And I was actually writing the section on the Bronze Lady when the fire happened. So
What?
yeah, I know. And I'm
Wow.
like, okay. So in the article, it was like, so what the way that she works is you disrespect her, and then something will happen like this one woman had her Camaro. So this was in the 70s,
Hmm.
and a tree fell on her Camaro.
Oh wow. She don't
So,
play. She don't play.
I know, right? I know she don't play. So it's
Oh.
something, it's usually it's something, and it's a few weeks after. So I found that the timing was kind of interesting. And so April and I decided to go back, and she had something happen in her home in New Jersey.
Oh.
A tree fell on her roof and basically pierced her roof. And so we decided to go back and pay homage and make amends to the Bronze Lady. And it was funny because we went back and we couldn't find her. So the first time we found her
What?
just like that.
Uh-huh.
Second time we were driving through the cemetery and we couldn't find her. We had to make several circles around the cemetery. Eventually found her. Both April and I are mediums, and we were like, okay. And what she was getting and what I was getting was what happened to me, even though it was painful, was almost like a blessing in disguise. And I agree with that. I mean, even though it was losing everything is not good,
Hmm.
I had so many books, so much clutter. It forced me to declutter my home and get to the bare basics and what's important. So even though like losing everything is not fun,
Hmm.
what it did do is it kind of made me reevaluate what's important in life. So for that, I'm grateful for the Bronze Lady, and we did leave I left a stone, like a protection stone, for her, and said a little prayer for the Bronze Lady, because the woman really is, she was a real woman. Her name was, I forget her name, was Mary. Mary, I believe, was a real name,
Hmm.
and so her energy's there. I feel like strongly that I don't really necessarily believe in urban legends, but I do feel that there's a lot of energy there, and it could be from years and years of kids going up and believing this story. It almost created a thought form or egregore manifestation that somehow curses people.
One of the things that when I was doing research, and I also did research on the Bronze Lady, and it was like the sculptor, and correct me if I'm wrong, he had made, the face and everything had sculpted, and then she got upset with how the face looked or something. And so she asked him to do another. And from what,
Yeah.
yeah, and then after he got through, and she was like, "Oh, it looks good. It looks better than the one that was there before." And he took it and he smashed it to the ground and said,
Yeah.
why did you, like, he got mad at her for criticizing his work on the first one, so she was stuck with the first one after he had threw
And
the other one, smashed it. So yeah, she's probably a little pissed, I would say.
I mean, I get it because like the stat, it's beautiful,
Hmm.
but it's really melancholy and it's really sad. But it's appropriate for a sort of a woman, a beautiful statue overlooking her husband's grave.
Right.
When you look at the statue, it's almost like it's crying or it's sad.
Hmm.
She's sad. But I will say this, like even going back and kind of paying homage, you can kind of see the change even on her face. And I know that sounds weird, but I saw, like, it's almost like she had like a Mona Lisa smile almost
Hmm.
after we came back. So it's the statue almost animates.
Yeah, that's what I had read too, that that she'll change expressions, or you know cries, or just different things that the statue does. So that was kind of cool that you got to see that actual happening of the change. So, and also on my bucket list, just to throw out there, is to hang out with April Bissett. I think that would be like so fun. Can you see the three of us? Oh my God, it would be such a mess. I mean, we would. Oh, that's a whole nother show. But yeah, she's the one of the co-founders, CEO of the Ghosted magazine, doing a really great job there. She's also, her and Michael Danger have also been a guest on the show, and so just wonderful, wonderful people. And so let's talk about, you brought up the term thought forms. Explain what a thought form is, but is the Headless Horseman considered a thought form, or is this the real deal?
I go really like the whole book is pretty much about thought forms. So
Mm.
thought forms really so there's no original disembodied soul. So thought form is a outward manifestation of a creation by people. So they think it and it almost creates it. So the idea, a lot of the ghost lore that I've written about in my other books have had origins of a ghost story. So like the Lady in Black or that sort of thing. But with the Headless Horseman, there were debate is were there headless horseman sightings in Terry? It was called Terrytown, North Terrytown, back in the 1800s. Were there headless horseman sightings, and did it come from the Battle of White Plains, which is what we believe that was the inspiration for this headless Hessian? What I do know is after the short story was published in the early 1800s, that there were multiple sightings from people in the community right around the Headless Horseman bridge of the Headless Horseman. So after it was written and it was really became an international bestseller, and it became America's first monster. The Headless Horseman became America's first monster. Uh, it really did creep out Terrytown, North Terrytown, and people had multiple sightings. So there were sightings after the creation. And the thing is with Washington Irving, my take on him, he's a wonderful craftsman. He like wordsmith. He's an amazing writer. He didn't really like to write, and it's like, kind of digging into the story. It was sort of it kind of it broke my heart a little bit because I had him kind of on the same plateau as like Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
he was a master in branding. He wanted to create this mystery to Sleepy Hollow, and he basically created Sleepy Hollow
Hmm.
because the name Sleepy Hollow was incorporated recently in the 90s. So it wasn't even called Sleepy Hollow back when in the 1800s. That's all created by Washington Irving. So he takes this whole legend of the Headless Horseman. I feel like that he took it from overseas. He actually wrote the story while he was over in England. May have taken a similar story that was common over in the UK and turned it into America's monster. I don't think that the ghost preceded the actual sightings, but after the publishing of the book, there were multiple sightings. People getting pushed off the Headless Horseman bridge, all sorts of things.
And some it became probably an excuse to get away with murder too, like you said, being pushed off the bridge, and well, the headless horseman did it.
Well, what's
Right?
funny about that? So the guy that got pushed off, allegedly got pushed off the bridge. He was carrying a pitcher of beer, and I'm like, okay. He was
Right.
like holding a pitcher of beer, and he gets pushed off the bridge.
That's alcohol abuse.
I know, right?
Right.
And, and this was actually cited as evidence. Like this was like, oh my gosh, the headless horseman exists, and people have spotted the headless horseman. The sightings have been less in recent years, but they do surge around Halloween. And what's kind of getting back to what I was saying earlier, it wasn't a Halloween story originally. It was more of a lot of times people they didn't know this, but Christmas was like New Year's Eve was actually really popular for ghost stories back in the 1800s. And so the Headless Horseman wasn't really a Halloween story, but
Mm.
he has become a Halloween story.
So yeah, that's definitely a Halloween staple. It's been, like I said, I remember watching that. The cartoon. What else is there to do in Sleepy Hollow besides um, talk about the headless horseman? I mean, is it they have a lot of shops there, or they just kind of just
Well,
capitalize on
yeah,
it, or
I mean, like real. So it basically is. So it's transforming as we speak. So
mm,
I do a lot of comparison contrast to Salem. Even like when I first started going to Salem, Salem was not the tourist town that it is today. It was just a place to go in October, and kind of similar to Sleepy Hollow. It's almost getting. It's like I would say like 10 years behind Salem when it comes to the commercialization. But that's kind of why I love it because it's not commercialized. It's almost got a vibe to it that is kind of old school Halloween, which I love. But there's Washington Irving's Sunnyside, which was his home,
hmm
uh, and it's it's actually not in Sleepy Hollow. It's like right outside of Sleepy Hollow. There's multiple historic properties that are featured in my book that you can visit, but really the main drag like is sort of And the difference between Salem and Sleepy Hollow is not, it's not pedestrian friendly. And
Oh,
I opened my book trying to walk from the Tarrytown House Estate, which is a haunted hotel, absolutely beautiful haunted hotel that's right by Washington Irving's Sunnyside, which is his home. And it looked like it was like on Google, it looked like it was walkable,
mhm.
but I decided to walk at night to go to Sunnyside, almost got hit by multiple cars.
Oh my God. Well, scratch that off the list of pedestrian walking around
it's
there, huh? It's too crazy.
it's not, and I wanted it to be pedestrian friendly because I'm all about, like walking to where I want to go, but this was not pedestrian friendly. So, but there, I mean, it turned into a whole story trying to walk to Sunnyside while it was turning dark to go to Jonathan Kruk, who's an amazing performance artist. He does The Legend of Sleepy Hollow at Sunnyside. He's also done it at the Old Dutch Church,
Oh wow.
which is right on the run on. It's featured in the story, and it's also at the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. It was an amazing experience, and I was emotional because it was on Halloween night that I did this.
Hmm.
But do not walk to Sunnyside.
Yes, I will keep that under advisement, and for everybody that's listening and watching, y'all keep that under advisement too. We'd have travels with Sam and how to, like, don't
Not
walk
do
there.
it.
Right, don't do it. You have the ghost of New Orleans on your books. You have the ghost of Salem related to evil. Now, and you're going to be doing the ghost of Sleepy Hollow. Now, can someone pre-order your book, or is it just like going to just jump off in September?
You can pre-order it right now. Go to Amazon, go to Sleepy Hollow, Haunts of the Headless Horseman, pre-order it. It's doing extremely well. I predict that it's going to be one of my best sellers because Ghost of Salem, and I always love to for people to get reference. Uh, Ghost of Salem is my best seller, and it's kind of what I'm known for.
Hmm.
But I also feel that Ghost of Sleepy Hollow is uh, almost a better book in the sense that it really goes into not only the ghost of Sleepy Hollow, but the idea of thought forms of the lady in white. What does the lady in white mean? I go into tropes like the Native American burial ground trope. Everything is a Native American burial ground. Why do we do that? Like why do we keep perpetuating that trope? But yeah, so it's available pre-order, and we're doing multiple events too. I'm doing what's called Halloween Showdown,
Hmm.
where I'm pitting Ghost of Salem versus Ghost of Sleepy Hollow and letting people decide which is their favorite Halloween destination
Salem versus Sleepy Hollow. Well, I've never
for
been to.
this year.
Right, for this year. Right, right. I've never been to either one of them, but I would definitely love to visit, especially Sleepy Hollow. I think out of the two, I would like to visit there at least first. What else do you have in the plans?
I'm really focusing on promoting this book. I'm going to multiple events. Pretty much my schedule is nonstop from August all the way until November. So doing events, I'm actually doing what's called Mass Paracon first weekend in October. This is an event that I put on. It's a huge event that travels throughout Massachusetts, and this year it's going to be in Fairhaven, which is a stone's throw from Lizzie Borden's house in Fall River, and that's in early October. But I'm doing a lot of event, like a lot of book signings. I'm doing more Halloween themes events, like CreepyCon. I'm doing in Knoxville, Tennessee, which is more of a Halloween event as opposed to a strictly paranormal event.
Right.
I'm doing Sleepy Hollow Paracon. I'm doing the Salem Paracon. So I'm getting all those locations, and you and I are doing an event in New Orleans,
Yes,
and
we are.
can't wait for that. That's coming up November 1st, and get your tickets. Talk to Misty about signing up for Halloween Showdown.
Oh yeah, it's going to be really great. Gonna have Sam and I and Richard Lael Lillard is going to be
Yeah,
a special guest too. So it is going to be chocked full of just all the, I don't know, creepy, crazy, just mystical, paranormal, everything that you want to is going to be rolled into one there at that event, and food,
and food.
and food.
And a lot of people. So I actually grew up in Pensacola, Florida. So my dad was in the Navy. So a lot of people kind of equate me automatically with New England and Salem. But I grew up down there, and I would go to New Orleans pretty much every every chance I could get. Uh, and that's where I learned about my abilities. That's where I learned about the paranormal. Really, was New Orleans. So New Orleans is special to me. I will say this: the energy down there is through the roof. It really
Oh
is. It's
yeah.
like it's overwhelming.
You can imagine sometimes what I go through. Just like
Yeah.
not every day, but it does get overwhelming sometimes, definitely. So yeah, Facebook. We have an event made about November the 1st, the Day of the Dead.
I'm going to introduce. So this year we're doing so it's Salem versus Sleepy Hollow. We're
Hmm.
going to announce, and you probably can guess the contenders for next year for the Halloween Showdown. And just ahead, but maybe New Orleans is one of them.
That would be cool. I know who I'd
Yeah.
vote for, but just saying. But yeah, so I mean, really looking forward to that event, and just got a lot of great stuff coming up. You do, the book. I'm really excited to see you just flourish and just shine bright like a diamond on it.
Thank you. Yeah, and I have filmed some stuff, but as soon as that's announced, I
Sure.
will be able to announce it. But yeah, I'm really excited to kind of get back to what like who I am, which is I'm an author. Like the reason why I do all this paranormal events and all that is to write books and for people to read my books. So super grateful to kind of get back on that track and putting out a book that I am so proud of.
And if you want to get more of Sam, be sure to you can check him out on Discovery Plus. It's the legend, I'm sorry, the Curse of Lizzie Borden, which Sam is a direct descendant of the Borden family, so he has
Yeah.
that going for him. And if you haven't watched it, be sure to check that out. Also, you were on YouTube with the Paranormal Files with Colin.
Yeah, there's so many. It's funny because like so Discovery Plus, a lot of the shows that I did for Travel Channel are now on Max, so the
Mm-hmm.
online streaming service called Max. And so, but the thing is, Travel Channel, I pop up on the Travel Channel still like every like day. It's like I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm on the Travel Channel again.
Again. Oh, if I had that problem. Right, because you were on, like, a haunting, you were in some episodes of that and did some,
Yeah,
producing, but also, I really appreciated you being on The House in Between Part 2,
yeah.
in Florence, Mississippi with Miss Alice, and, that's amazing. If y'all need to watch, House in Between Part 1 and 2, the Welptons actually filmed that, and they were also, have been on the show, and that is just an amazing paranormal activity for years in that home. And it's if you haven't watched it, I believe you can see it on Prime, just different outlets that you can see it. Just amazing. And Sam just goes in and just tears it up.
Y-
So
They didn't tell me where I was going, and
yeah.
I'm like, okay. And I head out there. I'm like, oh, that's Steve from Ghost Hunters.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
Steve from Ghost Hunters was on there, and
yeah,
John, and
yeah.
there, and just filming with Miss Alice for for so much, so long, years and years.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, like that house just was like through the roof, like active. The land for me was the most active, and I will say, Alice is the sweetest woman. She really is. Like I, I mean, I still talk to her. She's just one of those people that I just met her in person one time, but the connection is there, and I really support that woman, Alice Jackson.
Yeah, she has such a beautiful soul and just heart, and we're Facebook friends, and so we chat sometimes, and so that's pretty cool. But be sure to check out Sam. Get ready, go pre-order his book. Can't wait to read it. To have you back on and discuss the book more, and then discuss more about what's coming up, maybe on film, TV, wherever it may be, and just, touch base with you again on the show.
That'd be great, Misty, and I can't wait to do our event November 1st.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to it. So, everybody, thank you again, Sam, for joining us. Thank you. And everybody, I will see you next week, and have a good night.